Hey all, I decided to make another video because I've been filming for this online training that I've been working on called the Authentic Life Leadership Training, and I was doing the videos for one of the last weeks of the beta test, and I had my whole setup here with camera and light and everything, and figured it would be a good excuse to get on again with some new thoughts on community and authenticity. And this time, what I wanted to talk about is creating culture. I've started working with companies. I'm really loving it because it's basically like, how do you practice authenticity when you have the constraints of time and hierarchy, which influence a lot? And one of the biggest ways this shows up is in culture. Oftentimes, companies will have a policy of what they want their culture to be, and their culture doesn't live it out. There's a gap between the two. For instance, maybe a culture wants their employees to talk with managers if they have a problem. But instead what they're finding is employees are talking to each other and not to the managers. And they go like, well, we had a policy for this. Why is it not happening? That's a great question to ask and needs to be looked into more deeply. It doesn't necessarily mean the policy is wrong, but there are reasons why people aren't acting it out. So I'm going to talk about what I think some of the reasons are, and then some possible solutions for making sure your culture does get implemented. I think there's 3 reasons for this gap: lack of clarity, lack of desire, or lack of trust. First, lack of clarity. Oftentimes, people don't know what your policy means. It's like your policy says, okay, people in our organization feel empowered. What does empowerment look like? Does empowerment mean that you have a team building day and everyone goes and gets over the wall together, including the manager, and then you go back to work and nobody consults the employees when there's a problem? Or does empowerment look something like in Bridgewater, which has been one of my models for organizations lately? Bridgewater is a huge investment firm, I think. And they have this amazing policy where all of the meetings in the entire company are recorded. So anyone can go in and watch the videos at any time, even private meetings, no matter what level of organization. That leads to empowerment because people can make choices with full knowledge of what's going on. Clarity and transparency, I think, go hand in hand. So, do you know what something actually looks like? And the best way to create clarity is for the people that are higher up in the organization that made the policy to actually be demonstrating what it looks like. And this is scary, man. Like if you have a policy that says, we want employees to feel comfortable telling their managers when there's a problem, that means the managers have to model telling their employees when there's a problem too, which means being vulnerable, admitting mistakes, something that's often not, really acceptable or done much in hierarchy. But we follow what we see, not necessarily what's said. So if we don't see it, we're not going to trust enough to actually do it. Clarity also means just like really specific on what it is that you want. Oftentimes what we can get into is like blaming what's not happening, like punishing somebody for like breaking a rule or not following a policy, like not showing up on time. What is on time? People have different definitions of that, right? Like, is on time exactly at the mark? Is it 5 minutes late? Is it 5 minutes early? Different managers may even have different expectations. So you can't assume that someone else can read your mind. Make your policies clear and ideally go on the intention of the policies, maybe even more than the specifics. You can talk with people about how they interpret the policy. And that kind of goes into lack of desire. If people aren't bought in to a policy, they're probably not going to follow it. You can take, oppressed cultures. Like if a culture is taken over, a lot of the time they'll develop different ways to keep their culture going. So like Africans, when they were enslaved in America, developed songs and dances that still represented their culture, even though they were being told to take on a different one. We're, internally motivated, essentially. And external motivation can't change something as ingrained as culture. So you really need to make sure that people are bought in. And I'll talk about a couple ways to do that in solutions, but a couple reasons why people might not be bought in Number one, fear. It's hard to have a desire to follow a culture if you don't know if you're going to get smacked down for not doing it right, if you don't know if there's basically punishment coming, if you don't even know exactly what the policy is. And another reason is that there might not be incentive to follow the culture. Do you punish people when they don't follow it, but not celebrate them when they do? Are there reasons that if people, follow your culture right, that they actually get applauded? There's a really cool way that one of the organizations I worked with did this recently. One of the managers said, yeah, we have, in his department, it's a food cooperative, he wants employees to make a sandwich at a certain speed. And that's the norm for the line is to make a sandwich in, a minute or whatever. And so the way that he'll do this with his employees is he'll say, if someone's going slow, he'll say, hey, I've got a challenge for you. If you can make a sandwich faster than me, then, you'll get a sandwich or you'll get a bonus or something. I forget what the reward is that he offers, but it's something that, they actually want. And then he'll get beside them and he'll make the sandwich. And it shows the employee the speed at which he wants the sandwich made and the way he wants it made, but in a way that's actually enrolling. And then if they do it well, he'll celebrate their successes. Another way to do this is you can have appreciation circles. You can have some way of employees visibly seeing what others do well. Make it so that the culture is sticky. It's something that people want to do and that they feel bought into. Last piece is a lack of trust. So what this can look like is if the people at the top who are making the policy don't have the trust and respect of the people below them, which could be actually one big reason that happens is because the people at the top aren't actually following what they ask others to do. If the whole example of give direct feedback or speak directly if there's an issue, if managers aren't doing that with each other or they're not doing it with their employees, then the employees lose trust in a lot of ways. It's well, if up top is a brick wall, why should we be honest with each other, right? So lack of congruency is a big way to lose trust. And another way is telling people things rather than empowering them. If culture does come internally, you have to work internally with people. You have to ask them what they want. You have to actually consult them. Why would or wouldn't you follow this? What do you want? What's your culture? What are you bringing in with you? That sort of transparency and openness will build a lot of trust. And, another thing is just competency. If people don't believe that you can do the job, it's going to be harder for them to trust you. And there are ways around that too. Even though it seems weird, asking the people on the team to help teach you. What do I not know? What can you guys show me? I'm obviously a big proponent of empowerment. So that's one thing that can cause a lack of trust if the team's not in with the captain. But another thing is not everybody on the team is equally important to influence. There are usually a couple people in any organization that may not have the titular power, but they have the social power. These are the influencers. I heard a great rule a while ago that was called the 10-80-10 rule. And it means that in any group, literally any, we're talking about organizations, social groups, families, 10% of the people are troublemakers. They're the ones that kind of bring everything else down. They're the ones that you're going to hear the most problems with. 80% of the people are kind of followers. They're in the middle. And 10% of the people are natural leaders. If you look for this 10% and you try to work with them, you sit down with them and have coffee and listen to what matters to them and what they're seeing about the organization, develop that relationship, you're going to have actually a lot more control and power over what goes on. And those people are often who others look to establish the culture. You probably remember this from high school. The popular people, they were the people that others took their incentives from. So those are a couple things. Why policy might not translate into culture. Lack of clarity, lack of desire, or lack of trust. So here's a couple things that I imagine could be done. Number one, make sure that your policy is clear and actionable. What exactly are you asking people to do and why? Giving people a reason, that's what lights up their internal motivation. Let me think of a good example from my company. Okay, we've been working on communication, like when we should talk to each other. When do we tell each other about decisions that need to be made? And, we've tried things like, hey, every day, let's send a quick update about what each of us are doing today. Great policy. Wasn't put into action. Why not? Because I think people in the company weren't actually sure if doing that would meet the goal of transparency. It's a lot of work. And so they need to know, and I needed to know really, that it was actually going to fulfill the goal. And we tried it, 1 or 2 days, and it didn't have a huge impact. And so that policy didn't end up translating into culture. At that point, I could do the manager thing and say, okay, I'm like docking y'all's pay because you didn't actually follow the policy, which was very clearly laid out. Policy and culture have to actually match each other. There has to be a dynamic interaction between them. You can change the policy, at least smaller representations of it. You can allow teams even to have their own interpretations of the policy, as long as the intention stays clear. So our intention is for clear communication, so that when anybody in the company makes a decision, and members of my company are pretty autonomous in making decisions, or they have empowerment regardless of what level they're at within their domain. But they need to know what's actually going on, what decisions others have made. So we've been playing around with different systems. How do we get that need met? And because, I empower people in my company to make decisions and to come to me with them, they will often suggest ideas like, hey, let's try using Slack, or let's try voxing with each other once a week updates, or let's have a meeting twice a week rather than once a week so we can hear it. And implementing different solutions has really worked, and letting our policies be dynamic so that they fulfill the goal that we're trying to have in our culture. So making your policies clear and actionable, and then being willing to adapt, at least in form, if not in intention. Another thing, onboard people to your culture. A lot of the organizations that have really strong cultures, they have very long onboarding processes, and a lot of people don't make it through. Bridgewater, I've heard that their onboarding process is 9 months long, and a third of people don't complete it. That's actually important. If you want to have a strong culture, and especially if you have a culture that's different from the norm, like a culture of transparency where everyone is going to hear everyone else's meeting, that's a culture of authenticity. And authenticity is something that we're not usually used to sharing that openly. It's scary, right? It has repercussions if you tell somebody a thing that maybe you don't want another person to know because you haven't told them yet that you're upset with them or that you judge them for a certain action. Sometimes we want these things to stay silent. And they can be destructive, right? Like if I don't think that you do a good job, but I'm never going to tell you because it might damage our relationship or because it might make you angry, but I'm just kind of going to secretly judge you and never give you any responsibility, you feel that. And so I actually love Bridgewater's policy, obviously, because I'm into authenticity. And if I worked in an organization like that, even I would have to practice, okay, how do I speak in such a way that I'm comfortable with other people hearing it all the time? So their onboarding process is really important for getting people used to this. And they have a lot of people drop off that are probably superstars. They come in with lots of recommendations from other people, lots of skills. The thing is, in companies, being a superstar, having the best credentials, isn't necessarily the most important. A lot of the studies that have come out lately, Google did a cross-team study of all of their teams, more than 100 teams, to try to figure out why some teams are more effective than others. And what they found is the teams that were most effective weren't the ones with the most skilled people or the most experienced ones. Gender dynamics didn't matter, demographics didn't matter. I think actually gender dynamics did matter a bit, but because of the things that I'll say. The thing that mattered most was how much members trusted and felt safe with each other, how much they read each other's social cues, how much everyone had a chance to speak. These sorts of things are what create culture and build a team, mutual trust, not so much having the person that looks best on paper. And the last thing on that, which relates to trust, is demonstrating your culture consistently. That all the people in the organization should be showing that they're going to follow the same policies. There's not a gap between who's asked to do it and who's actually doing it. And if you find that you yourself are unable to do something that you're asking for in the culture, that's an opportunity to take a look at the policy and go, okay, does this actually fit us? If you're, at the top of an organization, can you live it? Do you want to do the work to live it? And if you're an employee, is this the right place for me? Or do I need to make other requests around the culture? Are the people around me following the culture? Because sometimes people don't care as much about the policy. It may not actually matter if it's a policy nobody is following. But if it's one that you're punished for not following, or other people seem to be able to do it, that might be time to work on your internal culture to see if you can make it match the outside. Okay, those are some thoughts on how to create culture, especially in organizations, and I find this works for groups and communities really of any kind. I'm going to be thinking about it a lot in the next couple weeks around my own communities. If you want more stuff like this, I have more on my website, which is authrev. It's in the comments below. And a couple courses to teach how to create good groups and communities and how to lead from a place of authenticity, congruence, and transparency. That's the stuff I care about.